What you just said.
Down memory lane we go.
Never heard anyone in my life who's more insane than Paul Young.
Stop him!
Little hoop action.
Hell yes!
How you doing?
How you doing? How you doing?
9 to noon.
9 to noon.
And winter is coming.
Oh, my.
Fire away.
Holy Toledo!
Forgiveness.
Hey. Wow. Old school, best school. 9 to noon, your forgiveness leader. It's FM 100.3. It's KFAN.
Puppy.
Ain't got no dime, ain't got no dream that he can see.
Hey,
Ain't got no love and it's hard for you and me.
you and me.
There's no medicine, no doctor could prescribe. No life support to keep this.
Why you gotta do this, man? You know you're gonna lose me for a minute.
It's
all good.
Can't see over. It's a crying shame, cause he'll never see the beauty of the other side.
Other side.
Says he wants to live.
Here we go.
And I know
Get funky now.
he's got to try.
What?
I think it's time for forgiveness.
This show is naughty.
It's time for forgiveness.
What you just said.
I'm a kid, so I call it KFAN.
Me too.
Hashtag Faith Radio.
So with the titillating 10 and getting through the Giants with Howard Cross, that was yesterday. Howard Cross, tight end, immortality for the New York Giants, and then riffing on the 49ers and Darnold against his former squad. These Texans, now Jerry Hughes has opted to be back in the mix. He's been in the league like 13 years. He's been with the Texans a couple of times, but he the last couple, this pass rusher, this outside linebacker, this edge, as they say in the business, he's going to be there to back up the likes of Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. Well, Hughes supposedly had multiple offers and opted, after thinking about it for a little while he was on the chill, he opted to return to the Texans. Why? Because he knows they're unbelievably good. And we have them week 3.
Oh, my gosh. Can you above average?
So we handled that yesterday. Then bringing Aaron Jones to Lambeau Field and losing would be a fat L. After that, you come out of the bye as the titillating 10 would go, and we were talking about the Motor City Kitties, and the Vikings come off a bye and they get the Kitties here, and the Detroit Lions have all of a sudden become the bully on the block. They've become the team that not only wins the division, but is one of the favorites to get to and or win the Super Bowl. That's the Motor City Kitties. That's the Detroit Lions, the previously moribund Honolulu Blue. But when you come off a bye and you're playing at home, you don't want to be bullied at home, and you don't want to lose 4 consecutive to the Detroit Lions for the first time since 1962 or 63.
Oh, my gosh. Can you above average at that?
Because after that, you're then on a short week and you're at SoFi and you play the LA Rams. And remember, SoFi is an establishment that was built in Southern California in Inglewood, adjacent to the fabulous Forum, where the likes of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Jerry West and Magic Johnson used to play, and Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal too. And SoFi is a stadium that was built without air conditioning. So you get to SoFi the wrong time of the year, say it's like 90 degrees outside, and in Southern California where they have dispensaries, the first thing that comes to mind is I know they have dispensaries in this part of the country, but no air conditioning in this building and it's hot. I didn't know they were hydroponically trying to grow people
I always love that
Sounds
one.
awful.
But you get the Rams on a short week off a game against Decker and Panay Sewell and Frank Ragnow, Chanhassen go crazy, and this physical Lions team. You're bringing KOC, we back to Southern California, Tyro versus Mentor versus Tyro. That's going to be sweet. And then as the titillating 10 would go, that got me to week number 11 at Tennessee, because week 11 at Tennessee and then weeks 13, 14, and 15. All right. So you're in Smashville week 11, but 13, 14, and 15, AZ, ATL, and Caleb Williams, those three right there, plus you put the Titans into it. And as the titillating 10 would go, the games against Kyler the Creator, Cuz Buzz returning to the scene, returning to the spot, and then the Bears, and then you get the Bears at home. Those all need to be wins. So this is without casting the gaze towards a Minnesota Vikings record prediction. I get asked frequently, what do you think the Vikings record's going to be this year? Generally, my response in non-flippant fashion is, I think I'm going to look at it conservatively this year. 14-3.
I always love that one.
And they're like, ow, I love that. Purple dinosaur, always. Homer, always. So that's not the record prediction. Don't know what the record prediction is going to be. Got to figure out who the starting quarterback's going to be. And as the titillating 10 would go, if you're going to get to a requisite number to win a division or make the postseason, beating Kyler the Creator, beating Cuz Buzz here, and beating Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze and DJ Moore and all them nice cats, those have to be 3 wins. And that's all part of the titillating 10. And good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, getting back to Tennessee, now, this is where I guess you and I have kind of, maybe we haven't approached it differently. I look at the Tennessee Titans game from if you are projecting wins and losses in a season, middle of the stretch where you're 3 straight on the road, and Jacksonville, despite going 1-5 to finish the season last year, they were a playoff team. They did have an opportunity 2 years ago to go to Mile High and potentially get out with a massive upset win, couldn't pull it off. They fall on their faces last year, but that's going to be a tough game down in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And then I look at the Bears. Caleb Williams will know a heck of a lot more about what he is by the time we get to week 12. But I look at the Titans as the most winnable at this particular moment of those 3 road games. And
They got Tony Pollard and Calvin Ridley.
They do.
Hey.
But how different? I mean, Tony Pollard, they can blame it on injuries and all of those things, but how ineffective was Tony Pollard behind that Cowboys line, and for a team that really needed more from that spot? And Dak aired it out, and they scored all the points, tremendous offense, and then talk about needing to run the ball and not get run out of their own stadium like they did against the Packers in the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
But what does that look like with Tony Pollard? They had to replace, they went big in the draft with their first pick. J.C. Latham is going to be the new bookend tackle, the left game, to protect Will Levis. What does Will Levis look like in year 2? DeAndre Hopkins a year older. We're going to get to see Jeffrey Simmons, though, PA. And it stinks that it has to happen to us, but
for better or worse.
We love Jeffrey Simmons.
They got Kenneth Murray Jr., too. He used
do.
to ball with the Chargers, and he was a little overhyped coming out of OU, but nevertheless, they got him.
They are a team, and now without Vrabel in the mix, I forget who the new head coach is down there, but
good question.
The fact of the matter is, let me see here. Oh, Brian Callahan. It's Brian Callahan.
Yeah.
But I look at that game as being absolutely so vital.
Right.
That's
why it's in the titillating 10. Don't you understand?
But then you get to the home stretch, beating Kyler, as you mentioned. I think because when you look at protecting your home spot, 49ers week 2 is going to be tough. Week 3 Texans are going to be tough, and then into the Kitties. So your first 3 home games. And after all of this, by the way, I do find it funny that neither of us have mentioned a very particular game that does have local interest, but it's an international flair. Neither of us have talked about that game, but putting that aside, the Jets game in London.
Yeah, and it's a winnable game. It's winnable for Aaron, too. But I guess when I crafted the titillating 10, I was looking for games that mostly, the way you put it yesterday or earlier today, forgiveness, it is mostly winnable. Don't lose your season opener against Daniel Jones. Okay, don't. They could be like, don't lose your season opener against Sam Darnold. Okay, cool. But nevertheless, you can keep those layers going. Okay, well, Justin Jefferson. Yeah, Malik Neighbors. Yeah, hasn't played a snap in the NFL. Just keeps going on and on and on ad nauseum, and quite honestly, it's boring. Just don't lose your season opener against Daniel Jones. Losing your home opener is bad for business. Now it's the Niners. You beat the Niners last year. You can beat the Niners this year. The Texans, that's just a cool-ass game. I mean, that's just a super, super cool game. Then bringing Aaron to Lambeau. But the Tennessee bit, week number 11, you're right. And obviously we can't forecast or prognosticate injuries and things like that. Who will be the quarterback at that stage of the equation? I would say it probably would be
Judy Eby
or Sam Darnold still at the helm. But with Tennessee, look at the three deep with the quarterbacks. You got Will Levis, Mason Rudolph, and Malik Willis. And I didn't mind Will Levis last year as much as some other people felt. Maybe he was middling or below average. But year number 2, man, you know what we say 9 to noon. If you're good, then you become very good. And if you're very good, the gifted become great. The more experience they get. Question is that Will Levis? Only time will tell, Davey.
The titillating 10, the 3-game homestand from December 1st through week 13 through week 15, that kind of decides the season.
How about that?
So however things really pan out, and as middling as it potentially could be through that gauntlet stretch, in the end, you get the Cardinals at home, you get Kirk at home, and you get Caleb Williams at home. And I think the Caleb Williams game, the Bears game's a Monday nighter. And so you're going to get primetime Monday night, week 15 against the Bears. But beating on the Cardinals, it's cool. They got Marvin Harrison Jr. That's awesome. And we love Jonathan Gannon, but we got to beat that team.
Yeah.
And then the Falcons bit, again, by that time, what does Bijan look like? What does Kirk look like in that offense? Can they finally use Kyle Pitts? Can that defense actually sack a quarterback because they haven't been able to do it in 2 years?
Yeah.
We'll know about the Falcons, but this kind of decides the season in that 3-game stretch. That's going to be awesome to be at home for half the month of December. But if you don't get out of there with at least 2 and hopefully 3 wins, they're absolutely in the titillating 10, PA.
Now, the Arizona Cardinals got a little hot at the end of the season last year, didn't they? I know they beat Philadelphia at Philadelphia in a game Philadelphia really needed from a seeding standpoint.
Well, yeah, James Conner.
But then Philadelphia got a little dysfunctional towards the end of the year, and then you have the problems with the things popping up about the coach and who's calling the plays. You got security guy pushing players in nationally televised games, and now my man Dom, whatever his name is, can't be on the sideline by the coach. So they went a little pear-shaped last year.
Well, did you see, I think there was something where they actually redesignated his role with the organization. Mm-hmm. So now Big Dom, I think, can be back on the field. So Big Dom is back for 2024.
Yeah.
You know why the Cardinals got a little bit hot at the end of the year? And by hot, you mean that they were 2-2 over their stretch.
Were they?
Let me see here. No, they finished losing 3 of 4.
Did they finish with a plum?
They finished losing by 1 to the Seattle Seahawks is what they did.
Mm-hmm.
But the key for them, maybe it was just unloading Dobbs. Maybe that added a little bit of life. Like they just unloaded Dobbs.
Yeah.
They got us with the Dobbs trick.
Yeah.
Dobbs delirium.
Yeah.
So they sent us into a spin cycle for 6 weeks. Meanwhile, they were able, but they brought Kyler back. I mean, that's kind of the story of their team. They were much better after Kyler returns, obviously.
Yeah.
But still, as a 4-13 operation, you have them at home. I don't care if that's week 1 or if that's week 13, as it is.
Mm-hmm.
You have to win. You have to win that game. So that's absolutely in the titillating 10, and you get a couple cool names in the house. Kyler, we saw him in the joint practices last year doing sprints on the sidelines. He's going to be full go at this point in time. I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see a W. But then it's Kirk. How many segments will we devote to Kirk in the week leading up to that Falcons game?
Well,
it's the talker of talkers in terms of playing the Sam Darnold versus his other team.
Wow.
Hey, we're going to get to see Daniil week 3. That's cool. Hope 99's doing well. He's playing for his hometown team.
Yeah.
No, week 14, Kirk is back in the building.
But week 14 would be the key here. Those would be the operative words. Week 14. The other operative words would be Buzz. Because, you've read the stories, man. You follow it closely. I mean, Buzz is what, 36 years of age, something like that?
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it's PFT, or that bunk doctor, David Chow, that you'll see some stuff on social media. The probability when you pop an Achilles at this age, the probability that you're going to pop your other one in similar fashion, it's I don't know if it's quite high, but there is a probability. That's week 14. You got to make sure that the Achilles is okay for old Buzz at that time.
Well, Cam Akers, and I want to bring him up in Vikes Bites.
Yeah, is that thing done? I mean, it was weird, like what I read this morning.
Well, that's what everybody's still wondering. But you want to talk about the likelihood or the potential of popping the other Achilles. Cam Akers would like to contribute to that conversation. The whole week's
Stop that.
The whole week's going to be about Kirk.
Hold on here. Barrero has Bill Maher on today. Barrero has Bill Maher on 3 to 6:30 today.
Oh, that's sweet.
Damn.
I wonder if in return he'll join Bill Maher's podcast where they sit in a room
Southern California smoking
and
dubs.
smoke dubs for an hour and a half.
I've never felt this way. All right, 3-2.
This is coming from a guy that doesn't. I mean, can you imagine the paranoia?
I think Bill Maher's on KFAN today, and if that's the case, that would be super fresh. What other games would you put in the titillating 10?
Well, I did have the Bears game in there, and one question, one aside.
Yeah.
Is it absolutely just lockstep? He's coming out of the gates, fists of fury.
Who's that again?
With Caleb Williams and just everything that they're building around him. I mean, the hype train.
Yeah, you talked to Jordan Addison, who played with him at USC. You talked to Jordan Addison about him, man. It's a cross between Pat Hayden, James Harris, and Terry Bradshaw.
I always love that one.
Like a can't miss prospect over there.
Well, that's what I'm curious about, because I remember similar conversations around Trevor Lawrence when he comes out of Clemson. Basically, had lost like one game in his entire life. The can't miss prospects.
Yeah.
A little bit of a different situation. He enters Jacksonville. They didn't exactly do the same types of things that the Bears have done to immediately put nice weapons around Caleb Williams in Chicago. But all the same, the can't miss aspect of it. Trevor Lawrence still there, just got paid a ton of cash, but it hasn't been all glory for that supposed unbelievable prospect of prospects coming out of the NFL. Andrew Luck was a can't miss prospect, and really for the most part, I think his rookie season they went 11-5, went to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Luck went healthy. Sadly, a part of his career kind of taken away because of consistent injuries and such. But can't miss prospects. That's the same way that the Caleb Williams steam train has been rolling through town for the last 2 years. And now, absolutely, will he hit the floor? That's why that game's in the mix. I did put week 16 because, again, projecting, I didn't have the Cardinals game in. I had a Seahawks game in my titillating 10.
Yeah.
Because I'm interested in terms of if things are going there, if you don't go 1-4 before the bye.
They still rolling Geno Smith out there?
They are, yes. Yeah. And so I'm interested in looking at some of these late season games. Seattle has given us fits, specifically in, as you would say, the Cappuccino capital for years. Then we kind of stem that tide a little bit with the Seahawks and what Geno Smith and now a Pete Carroll-less Seahawks team looks like in mid-December, potentially with playoff positioning and on the line. And then finally, I mean, my last one. I mean, the last two, you're hosting the Pack and then you're at Detroit. Those games are always will division be on the line? Some are probably feeling like it won't be this year. But I want to host Jordan Love and the Packers December 29th, and I can't wait for that game. That's titillating to me. It's Border Battle Part 2, as we talked about yesterday. The border battles always matter.
Yep.
But at this point in time, will Jordan Love still be playing down on the final dollars, the final year of his contract? Will he have a fat contract? What will both teams look like at that time in the year? That would be my final titillating 10 mention in terms of the list we put together.
Week 14, the Atlanta Falcons, the Cousins game, and Save this. I've had this saved for a couple of weeks from PFT. It's written at ProFootballTalk.com. It will still be a couple of months before we see the Falcons fully deploy the offense that offensive coordinator Zach Robinson has been installing since being hired earlier this year. But a picture of what the offense will look like has started coming into focus. Head coach Raheem Morris has promised a heavy workload for running back Bijan Robinson and expressed a desire to see more from tight end Kyle Pitts, you think? While wide receiver Drake London has eyes on a leap of his own. All of that will be tied to a full recovery from a torn Achilles by quarterback Kirk Cousins. And according to London, it's all going to take place at a high rate of speed.
Oh my gosh! Above average at that.
You can't stop it. I mean, they're all in, right?
Here's Drake. Here's Drake. It's just the type of play style we're trying to play. It's really, really fast. You got to be in condition. I think that speed is a killer in this game. If you have it, you can win a lot of things. And we have it. I mean, they may have it. It's just, I just love when they talk like that.
It's the best. I mean, even we spent time on it a week or two ago. Like Cam Bynum not putting Super Bowl out of the. I mean, that's how these guys talk at this time of the year.
Yes,
and I absolutely dig it. But I mean, he mentions it. That's what's fun. And the fantasy, the Chargers of the world are losing their minds about this.
Well, they have to be, because just like the final paragraph daggers or amplifies what I think you're about to say. Upping the pace offensively would mark a big change from what the Falcons did under Arthur Smith the last few years, and a corresponding improvement to their scoring pace would help Atlanta's chances of making it back to the postseason. He just dropped a fat L on Arthur Smith as he was heading out the door.
Well, think about it. I mean, this Falcons fan base watched Taylor Heineke trying to find Kadarrell Hodge on 7-yard outs in the middle of the season while Bijan was on the bench. And Bijan was the talker. Bijan was the new shiny toy.
Yes.
And even if potentially he handled it the right way, Bijan gets through things completely healthy, has nearly 1,000 yards in his rookie season. But nobody wants to see Tyler Algier.
No.
Nobody cares about, his family does. Many people do, of course. But they want to see Bijan. So Bijan had 214 rushing attempts a year ago, PA.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be, 50, 60, 70, 80 more. You think he tiptoes on the doorstep of maybe 300 carries next year? The massive overcorrections that we see in this league in so many cases. New head coach, heard all about it. Let's get number 7 involved. And so it's Bijan and that speed. And now if you're Drake London, and especially if you're Kyle Pitts, speed all over the field, and that's the kind of speed that we have and we want to play with. I mean, getting Kirk Cousins to throw to you versus Desmond Ridder.
Holy cow.
These guys must be on cloud 9. And they know with the cash given that this is an all-in scenario. So that creates a ton of belief, even if some of it is, might you say, slightly manufactured. Slightly legend and owned mind status. As Vikings fans, we've played that game many times. So that's how I look at it. All that speed, Kirk's got to show up. The Achilles, you wouldn't believe how the workouts are going. I love the timely release of some of those videos that we saw earlier in the springtime. Kirk's going to be ready to go, and the new staff just has to take advantage of it.
Why you got to knock Algiers?
2nd and goal from the 5 for the Atlanta Falcons.
Algier. I can't find the Pitts touchdown. I know that's a shocker.
Grinds his way into the end zone. Touchdown, Atlanta Falcons.
Did Pitts have a TD against us?
Tyler Algier with his 3rd touchdown this season.
Well, one of their tight ends got loose for like 70.
Well, that was Jonnu Smith.
Oh, Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, Jonnu for 60.
Oh, that was Jonnu Smith?
Yeah.
Oh, 3-2.
And for Atlanta, 6 penalties, 42 yards. Heineke back to pass, throws right, caught Jonnu Smith, 50-40, far side 20, touchdown Atlanta. A 60-yard touchdown. Heineke to Jonnu Smith.
Midnight train
and
to Georgia.
The Falcons have taken a 20-13 lead.
But the train horn feels right in San Francisco when the Niners hit you with it 4 different times.
No, they use the goal horn.
Is it a goal horn?
Yes.
I thought it was a train
well,
thing.
Maybe,
Okay.
maybe at Levi. Well, see, Levi Stadium's in Santa Clara. And
So it's not really San Francisco.
Right. The Sharks play in San Jose. So it's whenever the 49ers score a touchdown, it's I feel like thinking and or saying, Joe Thornton has scored again. Goal by Pavelski.
Maybe they should just use horn honks as in rush hour traffic, as in people stuck into the abyss of cars trying to get to Levi.
So on social media, like what's the phraseology with like how it began, how it ended, or something like that? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, this is how it started.
Thank
This
you.
is how it's going, or something like that.
Yeah, we had that Algier and Jonnu Smith moment, right? This is how it started, and this is how it ended.
11th play of a 69-yard
Take that,
possession.
Cuz
Dobbs back
Buzz.
to pass on third down. He stays in the pocket, fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Brandon Powell, the former Falcon.
Listen to the
has
Vikings fans.
beaten The Atlanta Falcons with a 6-yard touchdown pass from Josh Dobbs. 30-28 Minnesota with 20 seconds to go.
Highlight of that call for yours truly. After 2.5 quarters, I actually figured out Josh Dobbs' name.
I always love that one.
Spent an entire weekend ready for Jaron Hall, and then Josh Dobbs, who I barely knew was on the roster, comes into the game and couldn't get his name right.
Yeah, wasn't it
I
Hobbs? You had him as Hobbs for a while.
Yeah, there for a while. It was like a quarter and a half. We had a couple of Hobbs references.
Was it
in
Knobs?
there. I mean, according to all involved, according to everybody. How'd they go?
According to everybody involved.
I always love that one.
You did. You cleared it up, though, nicely on the broadcast, where you just spent 6 seconds going, Dobbs, 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 Dobbs.
No, we went Dobbs, 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 Dobbs,
Dobbs.
Thank you, Timber Tech. What's on deck 9 to noon includes Vikes Bites around the corner, the analyst at 10 o'clock, the college basketball player at 11 o'clock, and with Nordo, I'm Paul Allen. Timber Tech and TimberTech.com if you want to do decking better. And we got some money to give away, too. Here's that cash thing. Good morning.
The Fan, along with BigDeck.com, want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. Use the keyword check at KFAN.com. You might win $1,000. The keyword is check at KFAN.com.
Listen.
What we got up our sleeves for Vikes Bites today, Mr. Nordquist?
Yeah, Vikes Bites is presented by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. Go to thousandhillslifetimegrazed.com. It's a Clearwater, Minnesota company, and it's elite beef. You can shop online, and this box of meat shows up at your doorstep, or you can go to Coburn's, your local co-ops. And we are going to start here. And we mentioned it briefly in the previous segment, this weird bit that popped last week. A rumor that pending a physical, Cam Akers would be returning to the team. The signing is even listed on the ESPN NFL transactions page, but the team hasn't announced anything, and this is a week later now.
Right.
Would it make sense? You have, of course, Aaron Jones. You have Ty Chandler, Dwayne McBride, a rookie from last year, never made it to the big club, spent the year on the practice squad. Myles Gaskin, he's been signed and cut multiple times over the last year or so. And then Kene Wanwu. Does it make sense to bring Akers back and put him in a spot to compete, PA?
Well, the confusing facet for me is on the NFL transactions list. I think July 2nd, it was listed that Cam Akers was signed by the Minnesota Vikings. That's something I saw this morning, unless I saw it in erroneous fashion. So, I mean, maybe he's in the covenant. I have no idea. I mean, that was just like a week ago. But they like Cam. And we, let's not forget what we saw with Cam Akers last year, but also let's not overly amplify it because of what we saw from the other players. So Ty Chandler, Ty with all that speed, Ty may be sitting on something big if he can pick up the pass protection part of the equation, or shall I say, when he picks up the pass protection part of the equation. But maybe Akers looked the way he did because of the way some other things around him were looking.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, Mullins, when I've said this before, when Mullins would come in, it's not like the Vikings were winning the games, but it looked like the Kevin O'Connell offense. It just flowed the way it's supposed to flow. That's kind of how it was with Akers. I was quite impressed with Cam last year.
He was fluid. He looked like he was more elusive through the line than Madison, but I think to that end, we're talking about a situation where did he look better because of Alexander Madison and some inabilities, some inefficiencies we had with the run game?
Well, I think maybe when I get to Cleveland and I got a chance to decompress and think about some radio shows and stuff, and like Bursich is going to join in 25 minutes. Hopefully, he's going to be in Cleveland for the joints, so I can have some have some elite football minds on the radio shows, because this plays into. It's something that I brought up like a month and change ago. Haven't put any time into it. Not willing to say I'm wrong with the instinct. Also not willing to say I'm right. But let's not forget the most antithetical, abnormal, outside of the box general manager hire in the history of the NFL was Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah to run the Minnesota Vikings. He comes from a stock trading background. So if you come from a stock trading background with pork bellies and commodities and bear and bull markets, well, that's predicated on past performances. It's a past performance related scenario where you can have past performances on college kids. Ain't no doubt about it. I mean, you're not going to pass Dallas Turner because he hasn't played in the NFL. You're not going to skip if you love J.J. McCarthy because he's never thrown a pass at the highest level. However, if you look at the voluminous nature of the free agents who were brought in, the list was long. And you have past performances of those individuals against the best of the best ever to best in the NFL, the highest professional level of play for these individuals. So the point being is, I don't want to say devaluing draft picks is becoming more of a thing, more apparent, or maybe more of a plan here. But if you look at the way the draft was orchestrated recently, and then the voluminous nature of the free agents brought in, Akers is somebody who has past performances against the best of the best ever to best. So therefore, the jettisoning or not being all wound up over Saturday draft picks and aligning and or arranging your coffers to be able to secure players, you mostly know what you're going to get from them because they've gone against competition you'll be playing. I just sense that segue taking place here. And I honestly, I really don't know why it wouldn't. Because if you hire somebody from a background that Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah has, that's what he's incredibly good at, is analyzing commodities or stock or individuals at a certain level and believing that you're getting them at the right level and your stock will grow with said player. So I think Akers fits into that. I mean, I think with Cam, you know what you're going to get outside of the injuries, and he's reliable. Aaron Jones, what you're going to get, he's reliable. With Ty, you still got some wild card. With McBride, that's an absolute wild card. If you think Wanwu can be any form of a backup running back, there are some who would think you're stretching it with that. Yeah. So this makes sense. This makes sense not only if it comes to fruition because of how Cam plays, but just kind of a segue that I just instinctively think is taking place with the way the commodities, draft and or free agency and current players on the squad are being analyzed.
Vikes Bites!
That's Vikes Bites. My daughter Coley came by around at the Covenant Claps.
Covenant Claps.
Daughter stopping by and surprising Dad this morning. Let's throw it. Just you sit right there. Let's throw it back. What would be, I don't know, maybe 12, 13, 14 years. We've lost this piece of audio. Coley, do you love the fan?
No.
Why?
It's boring.
I always love that one.
It's boring. Vikes Bites.
Will Reichard, the Alabama kicker. I'm seeing things. I just saw, as a matter of fact, something within the last 20 minutes or so, that there's a video of him kicking a 65-yard field goal into the wind. This is back in the college days.
Mm-hmm.
6th-round draft pick.
Into the wind?
Drafting a kicker. All of those things that go into it with Reichard. Now Greg Joseph, he's across the state border with the Packers.
Yeah, they got 3 kickers.
Any big opinions on the kicker spot? Because for me personally, PA, I'm just assuming that he's the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And
He's the guy.
And the TikTok kicker, John Parker Romo, best of luck. Certainly, hoping that he finds success, but it might not be with the Vikings in 2024.
I'm glad you brought that up because I started thinking about Reichard yesterday after chatting with Howard Cross from the New York Football Giants' vast and ever-expanding radio network, Big Blue Wrecking Crew, though. And Alabama, all right, 3-2. Cross played football for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Roll Tide is what he said on the radio yesterday. And, he watches all the games and he knows coaches and he knows players and stuff like that. So he knows more about it than us. And when I brought up the kicker, Will Reichard, and as being the all-time leading scorer in the history of college football, FBS college football, it's not that he was surprised. He knew that, but my man was like, geez, I didn't realize he made that many extra points.
I always love that one.
Well, that kind of stuck with me a little bit. So I put a little time into it yesterday afternoon. Like, what did he mean by that? Because Alabama scored, a zillion touchdowns. And he's right. I mean, Will Reichard, who, by the way, was at Alabama 5 years. He led the nation in extra points made the last 3 years, like 81 and like big fat ass numbers. Led the nation in extra points made the last 3 years. The most field goals he made in a season at Alabama was 22. So it's when Howard said that yesterday, I started thinking about it a little bit, and that, man, my man, where there's a will, hopefully there's a W. He didn't try as many field goals at Alabama as you would think he would try, being the all-time leading scorer in the history of FBS.
I know it's college football, and so this number might not be astonishing. I'm just picturing he was 84 of 84 in extra points his sophomore season.
Yeah,
84 extra points,
and they're still banging that thing from the 10.
And he was 14 of 14 from field goals.
They're
he
still
kicked 14 total field goals.
How about that? Okay, and you draft him, you like him, you're raising him, and you got the all-time whatever swag / cred. But I mean, we don't have a ton of field goal opportunities there down Alabama way. So it's being there 5 years. I think part of it with Reichard is I wonder if Kwesi is playing so fast right now. He identified a kicker who's perfect for the new kickoff trick.
Oh my gosh.
We got to start thinking about it.
You do.
I mean, it's, we can lay in wait, like really that's what we have to do to see like how they align players, which players you're going to use, how weird is it going to look having the kicker like 25, 30 yards away from the rest of the cats, and the landing zones and the ball to the 35, the ball to the 40, things like that. But there's going to be a certain style of kick that's going to work better than other styles of kicks.
Sure.
And maybe the general manager's playing so fast. He identified the Alabama kicker middle of the season, knowing these line drive mortar things or to get to the landing zone are going to be needed. And this is the guy. Because when Howard said that yesterday, and you look into it, the field goals are good. You got the weird hash mark. So, you're like way over on the left, way over on the right. It's like you kick one field goal from Maui, the other from Maine. But nevertheless, he made most of them. There just weren't a lot of opportunities. So that kind of triggered my thought on the Alabama kicker.
I love it. That's Vikes Bites, presented by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef.
This is 9 to noon.
PA.
Mike Florio from ProFootballTalk.com is able to join. These are dicey times of the year for commitments and stuff for those who cover the National Football League, because things are down and slow right now, but it's all about ready to pick up in 3 weeks. So hopefully Mike can join tomorrow, because maybe we can talk about this. Florio obsessions can be very, very cool. And they can, I mean, if you take them too seriously, or like if you read between the lines too much and you let it bug you, then you let it bug you. But Florio obsessions, when he gets on some things, can be very, very fun to follow. First, some context, because context is king. Florio is all over the Dallas Cowboys right now. I mean, just all over the Dallas Cowboys. And I understand the approach, but I mean, those who follow ProFootballTalk.com and those who follow the Minnesota Vikings, when it came to Justin Jefferson and the deal he eventually would sign with Mike, there were stories after stories after stories about the clock ticking, and it behooves you to do something now, and the price tag continues to go up every not month or week or day. You don't get it done, like every hour, minute, or second, and it was a little obsessive. Then that thing got done, and so now it's on to the Dallas Cowboys. So and the context. Somehow the Dallas Cowboys have Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Micah Parsons in weird situations with contracts. And Florio truly is starting to panic kill it, like it was Justin Jefferson up to his deal with the purple. I mean, but with Dallas, the quarterback, the receiver, the linebacker, wow. That is a lot. But this Florio obsession, I found this is something that I saved from like 2.5 weeks ago, something like that. He not only wrote a story on it, and I have some from the story, but the same day, like later in the day with the
PFT,
like PM podcast or whatever it's called, he doubled down on that bad boy with a video calling the Cowboys cheap and short-sighted.
I always love that one.
I'm like, ha, ha, ha. Yes, 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 yes. Cowboys cheap, short-sighted.
I always love that one.
And from the story, in just over 3 weeks, the Cowboys report for camp. They start practicing in Oxnard, which is California. It's the San Fernando Valley. They start practicing in Oxnard on July 25th. Lamb, who skipped the entire offseason program, including mandatory minicamp, reportedly isn't planning to show up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb, not planning to show up to the old mandatory minicamp, which he didn't.
Guy wants to get paid.
And now potentially couldn't show up for training camp. Right? Wants to get paid. Without a new deal, he ain't going to be there. CD is entering his 5th-year option at a meager salary of $17.9 million.
I always love that one.
That's roughly half of the current top of the market at his position, i.e. $35 million. So then there's Micah Parsons. He's due to make just Micah Parsons $2.9 million. Holy cow. And you're actually going to look at him with a straight face at training camp and expect him to play on that. Are you kidding me? Micah Parsons only makes $2.9 million. And Florio writes, he should not set foot on a football field until he gets a new deal. And I'm pulling my tickets. 2.9, damn.
Well, what did JJ make last year?
20, 21, something like that.
No, there's no chance that he made that last year. I mean, he was still on his rookie deal.
Mm-hmm. Well, so is CeeDee Lamb. He's set to make $17.9.
Well, but that's his 5th year option.
Yeah,
his 5th year option for JJ entering this year was 19. Here, my
what do I
point,
look like the NFL's W-2?
Well, my point is you're going through this with Florio. So Parsons certainly is worth more than his rookie deal, much like Justin Jefferson is worth more than what his rookie deal was.
Mm-hmm.
The Vikings waited until the end of the 4th year as he was entering his 5th year option, which would have paid him 19, and they re-upped him. So specifically with Micah Parsons, could the Cowboys be playing a similar deal where we love you, we're going to figure this out, we're going to make it worth your while to be patient. Justin Jefferson went out there, played all the games. We talked about how patient he was. He just wants to play football, loves the stats, wants to be one of the best ever. And we lauded him for getting this deal done ultimately. We lauded Kwesi for getting this deal done ultimately. And that just feels similar with Micah Parsons specifically.
Yeah.
Not the other two. Dak's entering the final year of his contract. I think he's making around 30. And then you mentioned CeeDee Lamb, which jumps into the Tyreek Hill wants more money already because Jalen Waddle just got up. Amon-Ra St. Brown making 30 a year. CeeDee Lamb is in a spot where he is absolutely, I think, the man with a plan that needs to get paid, maybe above all three of them at this stage.
Yeah, and some would say the only way to do it is to not show up. And, having the stomach to actually do that is one thing compared to thinking about it or having your agent tell you this is the best thing to do. But I mean, the first step is not showing up to mandatory minicamp, and CD didn't show up. So therefore, at this stage of his career, one would assume that there's been requisite money made to be able to sit out until you feel you can get what you're worth. But the Parsons deal at $2.9 million. If Jones, think about this with the Dallas Cowboys and this Florio obsession to see. And he's right. I mean, he writes about it a lot. But I mean, it's when you have players like Dak, you got an MV3 there, man. You got Dak, you got Micah Parsons, and you have CeeDee Lamb, and they're all frustrated. You don't want your MV3 to be frustrated. Dak's so frustrated, I'd be flabbergasted and or floored if he took any kind of a deal from the Dallas Cowboys in lieu of hitting free agency at the end of the season. But think about this. If Jerry Jones does nothing with any of these deals, is it a tank job to get rid of Mike McCarthy and slide Mike Zimmer into that spot?
Was that Mike's question or yours? That sounded like a very Florio question.
That's my question. No, that's not in the story. That's my question. If I can't remember when I wrote this, if Jones does nothing, is it a tank job to get rid of McCarthy and slide Zimmer into the spot? Well, you
would you pay Dak Prescott? Would you get him up to a market deal? Just top of. I mean, it's somewhat top ahead. I get it, and there's a lot of things to dig into.
Yeah, I would. I'm not in love with Dakota Prescott, but it also is fair. It's just so weak and flimsy and lazy when people are like, well, who's going to replace him? Okay, we'll do some work and figure it out. It's different in this spot with this team when you say. You know what I mean? With
this particular team.
Yeah, because of where they're going to draft in the immediate future.
Correct.
I mean, they ain't going to be top 5.
No.
They ain't going to be bottom 4, but I mean, somewhere in there. But then again, you got those 3, 4, 5 quarterbacks who are coming out, so maybe Jerry has something up his sleeve.
Well, this draft upcoming, it sounds like it's going to be a lot lighter. It's going to be a lot less top heavy than it was this time around. So I think they got to do something. It's an interesting thought, but I still go back to like the way we as Vikings fans. JJ made $4 million last year.
Oh,
I mean, think about were we having this kind of conversation? Like, did you absolutely have to? Now, maybe the difference in this spot is that Kwesi and JJ's representation were already in conversations. I don't know what conversations have looked like between Jerry Jones and CeeDee Lamb's people or Micah Parsons' people, but the Parsons thing still sticks with me a little bit. Just thinking about it from our perspective and what we dealt with JJ. Ultimately, you want to get him the highest possible dollar that feels good for you and feels good for the player.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at CeeDee Lamb as really the A topic of A topics of those three that has to happen right now. and then they can have decisions about Dak. But Parsons actually, which is crazy because I think he's the best of the three in terms of value as a player. I think he might actually be third on the list, given the fact that you have him locked up and he's on the 5th-year option.
Yeah.
And it was the same conversation we had with JJ, where you really going to sit out games? You're really going to make this a thing when you know, and are you reassuring him? How are the Cowboys handling it? Again, different situation.
Yeah.
But he's into his 4th year, and I would put him. It's insane, I know, but I would put him third on the list.
I'm just sitting over here refreshing ProFootballTalk.com to see when the obsession continues, because there were 3 of them in the course of 7 days, and then there was one last week. So in advancing it, about the only way I can advance it is to speculate, because Jerry Jones is very fond of Mike Zimmer, and I can't say he's very fond of Mike McCarthy. But if Jones does not fix any of these bits, well, then I mean, are people going to sit out? I mean, is it going to impact their play? Because you have a former head coach on the staff in Mike Zimmer. Well, then in closing, think about the schedule for the Dallas Cowboys. And like the timing of how this would work. I don't have it in front of me. 7 into it. If it's awful, is it down goes McCarthy, in slides Zim, just in time for the Falcons game and his shot at Cousins down Atlanta way.
I always love that one.
Think about that. What is it with the Dallas Cowboys? It's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Hopefully Florio joins tomorrow.